cool. We started and stuff. What up, pal? How are you?
Um, very good. How are you?
Are you really? Very good.
I'm still alive, so I guess that's a good start.
That's always a good start.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah, how are you? I guess that's the good response to
Uh,
that question
uh,
is usually how humans carry on conversations, right?
looking at news is very depressing.
Yeah, it is.
Not like nerd news. Just well, I mean that's kind of depressing too. Just news in general. It's all about just people being shot and murdered everywhere,
Yeah,
all the time, every day.
famine in Yemen, bunch of crazy shit going on.
Yeah, it's either that or Kim Kardashian talking about Pete Davidson, which no one cares about. But
I don't know how that dude must have a really strong personality and a huge penis, because that dude slept his way through Hollywood.
or a really strong penis and a huge personality.
Yeah, one of those two. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those two things.
Yeah.
Either way, we can surmise that his penis is probably immense.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
It's
There's no other way.
it's gotta be. I'm telling you.
It's gotta be. The bleach hair, bro. Like no one else can pull that off and still get laid unless you just have a huge, like absurdly comedically sized penis. Like if you like stay hard for longer than 30 minutes, you're gonna start blacking out because like the blood pressure is going like all the way down and it's not going to your brain and you're just like losing just your capacity to exist. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. Everybody, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Yeah, talking about big wangs and other things. I
And
don't
chicken wings. I want chicken wings.
know. Yeah. Um. So I bought Doctor Strange tickets.
Yes, you did.
I did, yeah. And
You
you're
did.
gonna come see me and watch Doctor Strange with me.
That's exactly what's gonna happen. Gonna be
Excellent,
there
excellent.
every time we take a group photo. I'm gonna throw on my hoodie and turn my background so it's just like this mysterious image.
It's not likely that we'll take a group photo, to be honest, because it's only me and you and one other person, and
Mm,
I'm pretty sure none of us like pictures. So,
yeah, I
but
hate pictures so much I refuse to be in one right now. So, yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, it should be fun. That should be fun. But the day before that is May 4th, right?
oh,
You
yeah.
know,
What big things are coming out? Do you think?
well, it's Star Wars Day, pretty much, more or less.
Yep, May the 4th.
And so the Crest Theater here in Sacramento is once again showing the 1977 version of A New Hope, with celebrity guests.
Ooh.
Three celebrity guests, and if I said their names, you would say who? And I would tell you nobody actually cares. One was a Tuscan Raider, and two were Jawas, and no one actually cares. But they're gonna be there too, and they're gonna do a meet and greet, and they're so exclusive. The meet and greet price is like $40,
Oh
and
Jesus
which
Christ.
includes the ticket to see the movie.
Oh my.
So
Well,
so it's very cheap to meet and greet a Tuscan Raider and two Jawas.
two Jawas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're really like into the because I know a lot of people are really into the Tuscan Raider thing, and a lot of people are really like the Jawas. So like,
But did
if that's
anybody
your,
ever care who was under the costume?
no, probably not. But it's more about like just the general idea of someone was there in the original costume when the idea was thought up, and they were the one that betrayed it, and like filled your head essentially with like the images of what would go on to become the more expansive idea of the Tuscan Raider or the Jawa. So it's
Sure,
just that.
sure.
You
I, I,
know,
I mean, like if it was
it
like
just to say like I just putting it out there like you're right. It's really fucking stupid. And these guys are professional actors, so I don't want to like sell them short, haha, Jawas,
ha,
but also, but also at the same time like like yeah, an extra $20 for a meeting. So the tickets are like what, probably 20 or 9.
I
Yeah,
think just the ticket's $25.
yeah. Okay. So it's like $15 for the meet and greet. Okay, so that's not exactly
Uh,
like,
yeah, and there's three of them, so they each have five.
Because I thought you for a second you were saying that it was like $60 to meet and
No, no,
greet.
no,
Like, yeah, I was like, gonna be like, oh my fuck.
no. It's $40 total,
Oh, that's fine. Good for
but
them.
I'm not gonna pay the extra 15.
get that dollar. That's all I can say. Get it however you can. If someone wants to throw $15 your way because they want to shake your hand, like, oh, it was like to be a Jawa. It's like, oh, George just said, hey, can you run over here? Okay, now can you do it faster and with more intensity?
And
Okay, now,
can you point? Can you point in that direction? It
okay, now
reminds me
do it.
of last week when we were talking about Ezra Miller. I'm the Flash. These
Yeah.
guys are getting drunk at a bar. They're like, I was a Jawa in Star Wars. You can't treat me this way.
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
like, motherfucker, you were not like Kenny
No, I
Baker
don't.
or Anthony
Uh,
Daniels. Like, nobody cares.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that being a side extra, but these guys did a lot of extra stuff on a lot of different movies, especially like
Sure.
sci-fi movies. There was a
But
shitload of
like
them back in the
even
day.
then, like they're not main characters. Like
Yeah.
people cared about Warwick Davis, who was Wicket, the Ewok, but we don't
Mm.
care about any of the other Ewoks.
Yeah, man. Well,
You know?
that's because most of them were annoying. Everybody fucking hated them so much that one of the most popular video games, like in the '90s, was one where you drive around in an ATSD shooting Ewoks.
They have a version of that in Battlefront 2. They have like a game mode, but like instead of like you spawn as a
Scout
stormtrooper.
troop. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to go around and find the Ewoks and kill them. But if they kill you, then you become an Ewok, and then you have to go kill stormtroopers.
That's hella funny.
Yeah.
But so it's been a long running joke. I don't know why, but he was the fluffy first teddy bear before we got introduced to all the cousins that we hated. So
Hmm.
that at least that initial Ewok was
Yeah.
pretty damn cute. But
Speaking speaking of Ezra
yeah.
Miller, there was some like
Oh,
news that like WB like held emergency talks to like see if he should be removed as the Flash, which then later they came out and said that's not true. We didn't do that, and who fucking cares because it's WB. But
yeah.
um,
Let's say like what emergency fucking talk. Like one executive called another executive and said, "Oh, that guy's fucking our image even worse."
they're like, guys, we have to keep Ezra Miller. At least people are talking about us now.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're relevant again.
Yeah, except for when our people aren't trashing our movies, which
Yeah,
are probably led to more entertainment than the actual movie itself at this point. But
that's true. But
poor,
yeah,
poor DC, poor DC. That's all I gotta say.
have you been watching Moon Knight?
I did. I watched episode 1 and 2 yesterday, and I did enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I very much actually. I think the trailer made the show seem a little bit more in.
I gotta be honest. I avoided all the trailers after like the
Okay,
first
I
one.
I
But
watched the first trailer because like I don't know, like it was a big thing on Disney Plus. It says watch the Moon Knight trailer, and I was like whatever. I was probably stoned as hell, so like
mm,
yeah, sure, whatever. Watch Moon Knight, whatever. Watched it. Like it was just, it was like shot like a horror film almost.
yeah, parts of it
Yeah.
is horror esque. Like the end of episode 1, where he's like beating down the Anubis dog.
Yeah.
That's pretty horror esque.
And I mean, maybe we have different depth. Maybe I'm just kind of
Okay,
numb
well,
to everything but extreme body gore horror at this point after so many years vested.
yeah, I don't really watch much horror, so you probably have more insight than I do about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like there are horror elements present though.
Yeah.
But I don't view the show as a horror show at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't even brand it that. I wouldn't even brand it psychological thriller, to be honest. I would just call it like an action movie thriller.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
I
bit of
did talk to
mystery.
some people, and they're like, yeah, I was really annoyed by Oscar Isaac's British accent, which is
I
understandable because,
think
like,
that's the point.
yeah, and he really accentuates it. Like, he really sounds like he's from like Essex or something. Like
Mm.
he even says "bruv" every now and then, and in
Your
Baga.
your favorite word, bro.
I don't say "bruv" very much.
Every time you text me, you always say later, bro.
I don't say "bruv."
I'm gonna go through our text right now. I'm gonna emphasize every single
You'll
bruv
never
I find.
find a bruv in any text I sent you.
I'm gonna search by bruv right now and see.
The only time I say bruv is if I use like a London accent. But I've never texted bruv. At least not recently. Maybe years ago.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, but I'm not gonna go back that far. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I really do appreciate his acting and all this. He seems to be doing pretty good. I think it's intentional that this main character. completely forget their names now. I know one's David, the other's Mark, right? That's the idea.
Stephen Grant and Mark Spector.
Okay, Stephen Grant and Mark Spector. So yeah, like whoever Steven's the one who's got the British accent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He's
don't
like
know what's going on. I'm just lost all the time.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be annoying and flamboyant. I think that's supposed to be. It seems to be like his thing. It seems to be an integral part of his character, which is fine. And if people are getting annoyed by it, that means the character's working.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like especially in episode 1, he's kind of just a proxy for the audience, right? Like he has no fucking clue what's going on, and none of us have a clue what's going on either. Well, unless you like are familiar with Moon Knight, but like people who don't know who like that Moon Knight has like this like identity disorder and schizophrenia and shit. Like people just are kind of like, what the fuck is happening? You know, why does he have like handcuffs on his bed? Is he kinky or some shit?
Yeah.
You know. Why is there sand everywhere? What the fuck is up with the goldfish? Like nobody actually like knows what is happening. So like just like him, he has no idea what's happening. So it's like a good proxy for the audience.
Yep. Yeah, I did like the blackout parts. It was interesting to see like, the freak out from that literal months had passed. Several like I think this was more in episode 2 when he was having more of an emotional breakdown, but Oscar Isaac is just such an amazing actor. He really is. But sticking with episode 1 for right now, there are a lot of really good action sequences, and I really like the thing where he like blacks out and then switches to like his badass persona.
Yeah, and I like how like because Stephen Grant is such a proxy for us, like when he's blacking out and becoming like Mark Spector's taking control, we don't see that. Like we only really see his perspective, but the more the show goes on, the more our narration will kind of change, I think.
And broaden, it's like first 2 episodes were on Steven. The next 2 are going to be on Mark, and probably the other 3 of that are going to be like solely on. I don't know. How many episodes were slated for this season?
6.
Oh, so that's not that okay. Well, budget looks really high, so I think that's probably why. Excuse me. Each episode's like 54 minutes. I think the first one was. So
yeah, every episode probably they're all going to be between like 45 minutes to an hour, which is a big step up, I think, because like you look at like WandaVision, which even though it was 9 episodes, like the first like 3 episodes were like 25 minutes each.
Yeah. There's a lot of star power in WandaVision too, so we need to understand that. Like,
Oscar Isaac is more star power than everyone else in WandaVision.
Yeah, but I think he's more, but still, I think he's getting really, really well known now. But I think up to a few years ago, he was still probably considered in the up and coming category, and I think he's still kind of relatively sitting there now, though at the very end of being part of that club, where I think he's gonna. Move on to being just a major star. Because I remember when they did the original cast, like when they casted all these new characters in Star Wars, like Oscar Isaac, who is that? Like,
I was the opposite. Was I?
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't remember.
That was a long time ago.
No, because I was familiar. I don't know if I was. I thought like they would go with like a lot of unknowns, but they still had like a lot of known actors be in there.
Well, and they had the original cast.
Well,
so there's that too.
But Oscar Isaac was doing a lot at that time, but he was in X-Men the year after, so.
Yeah, he was like what, Doomsday or Apocalypse?
He was Apocalypse, yeah.
Yeah.
That movie was actually not terrible compared to the other X-Men movies, but.
Yeah, compared to Phoenix Rising, whatever the fuck.
Oh, Dark Phoenix was so bad. I don't know if you watched it.
I never saw it because I just knew I could tell by watching the trailer. I was like, oh my god, like there's spotty acting in the trailer itself, and the CGI just looks like trash.
I knew Mystique would die, and so I was I was like, oh, I hate this version of Mystique, so I'll just watch it until Mystique dies, and like even her death was insufferable. That's how bad it was. Like I couldn't even enjoy her death. It was very sad. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, on the bright side, she'll never be back. So at least you get that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked before. Like I've mentioned like my great distaste for the news site Comic Book Resources.
Yeah.
And it all started because like when I was doing Nerdy Boys reviews with my old buddy Scott, we would use them for all of our news, and then eventually, like, their news just started to not be news. It was just all conjecture and opinion pieces,
Yep.
which was really, really annoying. Um, and so, like, it all started with an article about Ant-Man. Like, after Ant-Man had come out, and it was just like the most random shit. Like, they pretty much were just saying, like, the movie is awful because Janet Van Dyne is super capable, and they just ignored her and let a man do all this stuff or whatever. And I was like, well, you can have a problem with that, but also acknowledge that within the movie they established why that was. Like, that's literally like one of the driving points of the movie, that Hank Pym doesn't want his daughter to die.
Yeah.
Like, and that's within his power to make that decision, whether you agree with it or not. And, like, to just say the whole movie's bad because, like, they ignored her capabilities. They didn't ignore her capabilities. We saw in Ant-Man, we saw her beat the shit out of Scott Lang and do everything better than him. We saw it all. We know she's better than him. But Hank doesn't want her to die. Like, that's the whole point.
And, you know, this happened a bit later, but I think also that showed in the What If, when she did die, and Hank went on a serial killer spree when he murdered all the fucking Avengers, one after the other.
Yeah.
In very dramatic fashion. So I think that emphasizes that as well. So at least there's that. But again, that's talking about the original Ant-Man movie in the now. So
yeah,
probably doesn't apply, but still, just a thought.
Yeah, but back to my point, right? Comic book resources is just, like, terrible, and, like, they continue to be terrible. Like, their articles now, like, are still terrible. Like, did J.K. Rowling copy Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings for Harry Potter? No, she's never even read The Lord of the Rings. Anybody who loves Harry Potter or loves Lord of the Rings should know those things. And obviously, like, it's hard to say just straight out no, because all modern fantasy fiction is inspired by Tolkien, whether people have read it or not. Just because of the influence he had on the genre. Like, he pretty much created, like, modern fantasy fiction. So all modern fantasy fiction is inspired by Tolkien, whether they've read his work or not.
Yeah, Wheel of Time is the biggest one I can think of that I know. Like, Robert Jordan basically says, he's heavily inspired from Tolkien.
Right. And, like, articles like this: Saruman hated smoking, but Merry and Pippin proved he was Lord of the Rings' biggest hypocrite. Like, what?
What?
Like what?
What? Yeah.
And so it really annoyed me yesterday when I was scrolling Twitter, of all places, cesspool of all, and this, like, well-known Star Wars account didn't post an article, but posted a screenshot of a headline of a comic book resources article that said George Lucas was inspired by the Vietnam War for Star Wars or something. And
I think it'd be more like World War II or something like that.
And the well-known Star Wars Twitter account wrote, like, in mocking quotes, like, but Star Wars isn't political. You know, people do that to mock other people's arguments, like, people who say Star Wars isn't political. And you can have whatever arguments you want about whether Star Wars is or isn't political. We all know there are politics within Star Wars. But the idea that Star Wars is something because the creator said something at some point is ridiculous. And I know I talk about this a lot, but it really fucking annoys me that people think that what a writer or director says about their work should mean anything to the audience.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. Allegory is stupid, and you telling me that because the writer says this is an allegory for fascism or World War II or Nazis or whatever, you telling me that if I don't believe that, I'm an idiot, doesn't do anything. Because what Star Wars means to me doesn't change because it means something different to you. That's the whole point of fiction.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
No, I just think it's dumb to compare it to Vietnam because they didn't have turret gunning in Vietnam. They had turret gunning in World War II. So I just think that's a really dumb comparison. And then, you know, you could say Star Wars isn't political, and, you know, in some cases you're right, but it's also fundamentally about good versus evil. Now, the problem is, this is the question we have to keep asking ourselves every day now, which is why I think our society is getting a little frustrated. Is it what is really good and what is really evil? And those questions are actually a lot more difficult to answer than most movies portray them to be, you know?
Right.
Like in Star Wars, you're right. Like it's a lot easier and simpler to view it as just, oh, these guys are really bad because they do bad things, and these guys are really good because they do good things. And they good guys eventually win. They're a plucky little rebellion. You know, they beat the bad guys in a glorious battle that defeats the entire empire, and they don't have to worry about anything after. Yay! That's like how the movie basically ends. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one dinky little rebel fleet, and they blow up the second Death Star, and then the Empire's beaten forever. Yay! Like. It's
right. So
you know,
I found the article.
oh boy, oh
Uh,
man, this will probably help your mood for sure. Make sure to check your blood
yeah.
pressure before you do that.
Yeah, the original Star Wars trilogy takes clear inspiration from a plethora of classic movies and storytelling techniques, from the Western gunslinger of Han Solo to the samurai-like teachings of the Jedi Knight. All of these concepts are twisted by being placed into a science fiction setting. Star Wars is fantasy, not science fiction. First of all, if you're looking at the strict definition of
or sci-fi fantasy,
yeah,
more, yeah.
Yeah, but the movies don't challenge you technologically or intelligently. They challenge you emotionally. There's that's the difference between science fiction and fantasy for people with literary backgrounds. But none of that actually matters because, again, it is what it is to you. Yet Star Wars creator George Lucas has revealed that one of the largest inspirations wasn't a movie, but instead a real life event: the Vietnam War. Okay, and we'll get a quote eventually to support that, I'm sure. In 1965, America entered the Vietnam War and began sending troops with over 500,000 Americans deployed by 1969. By the time the war ended in 1975, close to 60,000 Americans had died, and the war was considered a complete failure. Due to the questionable nature of joining the war and the extensive brutality that was being filmed live for television, many American people were against it, one of them being George Lucas. During a 2005 interview with the Boston Globe, Lucas said, "I love history, so while the psychological basis of Star Wars is mythological, the political and social bases are historical." Wow, what does that have to do with Vietnam? Hold on, let me read this again. Star Wars creator George Lucas has revealed that one of the largest inspirations wasn't a movie, but instead a real-life event, the Vietnam War. Does that quote have anything to do with the Vietnam War?
No.
Okay, we'll continue. This comes as no surprise, as inspiration from history can be seen throughout. It's no coincidence that the Empire is often referred to by viewers as space Nazis, as their dictatorship and prejudice against non-human species are purposely representative of the Nazi Party during World War II.
And also they're kind of dressed like Nazis, and their main soldiers are their names. There's named stormtroopers, so that could be it too. But go on, keep reading. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I do take partial issue with their prejudice against non-human species. I didn't see much of that in Star Wars.
Because there were no non-humans in the Empire because they oppressed them all.
Well, they showed up. They showed up on like Tatooine, and Mos Eisley is like all non-human species pretty much. And, the stormtroopers aren't fucking with them.
They're shoving aliens out of the way, bro. They're harassing people on the streets. Where are you going with these droids?
Yeah, but those were those were humans, though.
Yeah, dude,
the Empire's against everyone.
They're harassing Tatooinians. That's why Boba Fett had to break away from the Empire 30 years later when he beat up that one guy. Boba Fett fucking happened, bro.
Okay, but that wasn't the Empire.
The Book of the Mandalorian. What?
Okay. In 2018, George Lucas sat down with director James Cameron to talk Star Wars and revealed how the Empire was also meant to resemble America. Cameron first points out how the rebels are a small group using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire, and that nowadays they would be called terrorists.
Asymmetric warfare, bro. Yeah, let's throw get 6 spaceships and attack this giant station. That's definitely a fucking symmetric warfare.
Lucas then replies, "When I did it, they were Viet Cong." In other words, he saw the Vietnamese as the rebel heroes and America as the villain invading their territory.
Yeah, well, there's no easy answer for the Vietnam question because, man, it's just fucked, dude. Imagine entering a war that 2 other nations had just immediately failed and suffered heavy casualties, and they're like, don't worry, guys. We'll recruit some fucking citizens, train them for 4 weeks, and send them into the fucking jungle. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll take them out for you. Don't worry, guys."
Yeah.
And then it led to some of the most horrendous atrocities that this country's ever participated in, and most likely its entire history, aside from what it did to the native populations of, the land we're occupying right now. With that being said, though, I mean, sure, you can compare them to the Viet Cong, but you can compare them to a lot of things. Like, they're just a plucky little rebel alliance fighting the bad guy.
Right, and that's the beauty of it, right? Like that's the whole point of art, isn't to say this is only this, and if you disagree, you're wrong. It's to say this can be applied to this or applied to that, and all these interpretations, as long as there's evidence within the text, are valid, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll pick all this out, right? Like he explained Star Wars was a vessel to put his worldviews into, and that America had become an empire during the Vietnam War, one that was doomed to fail like every empire before it. Blah blah blah. And then in 2013, George Lucas. There's a book. George Lucas attended a story conference in 1981 and was asked if Palpatine was a Jedi, to which Lucas said no, he was a politician. Richard M. Nixon was his name. He subverted the Senate and finally took over and became an imperial guy, and he was really evil, but he pretended to be a nice guy. Okay. See, and that's the thing, right? That's George Lucas's inspiration and interpretation of his own work. And when you get it, you don't have to know that that Palpatine was inspired by Nixon. You can just apply it to whatever you want to, right? The biggest thing I look at with something like this is, like, if you've read The Lord of the Rings and you've read any of the Two Towers with Treebeard and the Ents,
yeah,
like it reads like, if you're looking at it through a prism of allegory, it reads like, wow, Tolkien really hates machines, and he hates industrialization, and he wants nature to fight back. And the truth is, he does, and that's what it is. But
yeah,
if you read the opening of The Lord of the Rings in the foreword, he literally says, "Don't take any of this as allegory. Don't do it, because it doesn't matter, right? Your interpretation means more, and it means even more because Tolkien wrote the entire Lord of the Rings from the perspective of an unreliable narrator."
Yeah.
Right? And so that's just kind of how I prefer to approach any art, wherever it is from the idea that, like, it's not just one thing. Because if Star Wars is just a metaphor or an allegory for the Vietnam War, okay, why would I ever watch it again? I have nothing more to gain from it if that's all it is. And if that's all it is, then I can just go read history. Right? Yeah. Why do you need Star Wars? Because it's a new pretty box to wrap the story in?
It's not just a new pretty box, bro. It's got lasers and fucking explosions, and it's got giant hairy people, and it's got freaking Carrie Fisher running around. Yeah. Got Carrie Fisher running around in a white jumpsuit with no underwear on. Come on, man.
She had duct tape on her breasts.
No, well, she had no underwear on. Duct tape. Does duct tape actually? Do you
That's
actually?
What she used. That's what she.
Do you
used.
actually consider duct tape to be?
No.
Would you legally like, if you were in a court of law and a judge asked you, would you consider duct tape to be a legal form? Would a reasonable person define duct tape as underclothing? What would you respond?
Well, obviously not. But I mean, that's what she was wearing. You know.
Okay, so she wasn't wearing any underwear. We've established that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Because there wasn't any, you know, she didn't know what space underwear looked like until she wore a metal space underwear, you know.
George Lucas didn't know what space underwear looked like either. That's why she couldn't wear it.
Yeah, it was all planned from the beginning.
Oh man.
The truth is, George Lucas created Star Wars because he wanted to find the most complex way to watch Carrie Fisher run with no underwear on.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was his goal from the beginning. He's like, wow, this Carrie Fisher actress is beautiful. I want to see her running with no bra on. How about I write an incredibly complex trilogy just for one scene where she's running down a hallway with no bra on?
Perfect. That's how you sneak it in, bro. It's like Quentin Tarantino with all those foot fetish, high quality edited, bro. In each movie, there's a bunch of foot fetish stuff.
Totally.
He has a collection of it. He probably has a DVD at home with all the foot fetish scenes he's ever put in every single movie. And every Friday night, Quentin Tarantino makes fucking popcorn. He gets in his big personal home theater, and he just fucking rubs one out while watching his movies with feet.
Okay, well, don't cancel me, but I've never watched a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, some of them are really good, and some of them are like everyone was fawning over the latest one he did, the Hollywood movie.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I personally didn't think it was very good, and that makes a lot of people angry when I say that. But I also don't care what people think about me. So
Yeah.
there you go.
You know, that's just like with me. It's like I don't ever watch any movie that's not like a nerd movie because I don't know,
Well,
just don't
I
have
don't
any
know.
interest.
I
So
I watch a lot of movies, so I'm like I don't know, like Lawrence of Arabia, like a lot of the old school ones. Good movie. There's some really good movies out there. Citizen Kane too is a great movie to watch if you want to see where
that's a classic though.
yeah. Well, that's what it's saying. I watch a lot of classics too, like
You watch
all the
Charlie Chaplin movies?
I watch some of them, not all of them, but some of them. Because some of them are actually legitimately funny, and they often
Charlie Chaplin's pretty unmatched as an actor, to be honest.
well, he's it's all an expressionism. But also, there's another thing too, is that he really used the fact that everything was going to be shot in black and white to his advantage. He had his face like powdered and stuff like that, so everyone would be focused on his eyes, and he outlined his lips with black, with black stencil, so people could see like he just really worked on those gestures in the mirror. He's just a really good actor.
Yeah.
I think today, like modern comparison, I don't know. I think my favorite actor would probably be Christian Bale. He's done a lot of really
I'm
good.
not a fan of Christian Bale.
I don't know. He's pretty good. Nick Cage can be really good too, but he has to be like in the right movie. Like there's some. Cause I know he's done a lot of weird movies, but Nicolas Cage has also done a lot of really good movies. I can't remember. There's one where he's like I think just called Beat a Kid or something like that. Really fucking good. Christian Bale. Christian Bale was American Psycho, right?
Yeah.
And then he was also he was Hal for Howl's Moving Castle. He voiced Hal, and it was a phenomenal performance. He was in The Big Short. That was pretty good, but it's like a short. Batman. He was a good. He was a good Bruce Wayne.
He was an okay Batman.
I thought you said you liked his Bruce Wayne though, or did you like?
Yeah, but there's something about the way he talked, even as Bruce Wayne. It always felt like he was about to have a lisp, and I don't know if that was like intentional or not. But like, I have a problem with all Batmans because every Batman, when they talk in the suit, I don't know if it's the suit itself or something else. They always talk like they have an extended jaw, and they're always like, "Gotham needs a savior, and I'll be the savior."
Maybe it's because they're trying to be super intense. Maybe so they stick their jaw out. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were we talking about originally? You were screaming about some comic review website.
I was screaming about Allegory.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, like sometimes Allegory can, if you really are trying to make a story with a very defined purpose, I think you should go ahead and use it if you want to because it's your story. You're the one that's writing it.
Sure.
And,
I just think it's a weak storytelling mode. Like,
yeah,
it really limits like what people can gain from your work. That's the same issue I have with C.S. Lewis in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Like, if you don't know that Aslan is Jesus, you're an idiot. It's like, well, but I mean, like, sure, obviously that was your intention, and like, yeah, it makes sense. He was fucking crucified and shit. Like,
yeah.
But if that's all there is to it, then why do I need to read it? Why do I need to watch it? Why do I need to interact with it at all? Like, there's no repeat value to it, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, I reread Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings like all the time because there's so much repeat value to reading them. But if like I believed what people say about like Lord of the Rings is just an allegory for World War I and World War II and about how nature is fighting back against industrialization, then okay, sure, yeah, then there's nothing else to get from it. Thank you. I'll go read history.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're right too. That's the thing about Lord of the Rings, though, is like it's like 3 books that are actually 9 books. So there's a lot of space to fit in a lot of different things and a lot of different ideas and a lot of this. That's the difference between a movie and a piece of literature. Is that when you're good at literature, you have a lot of free space to express different things. There's a lot of words in Lord of the Rings, and most people probably don't quote like 85 to 90% of them, and they only focus on the 10% they're constantly quoting.
right.
But there are a lot of
misquoting
and misquoting too. That too, or like misunderstanding, or like just getting their own interpretation from it. Like for me, I'm rereading Lord of the Rings right now, and it's been a really long time. I'll tell you, since I've read Lord of the Rings, it's been a really really long time.
Right.
Like probably at least 10 years. So, like, I'm just looking at it now with fresher eyes and with him as a more formed personality. I do see, I do see a very strong anti-war sentiment in it, like in the pages. Like, it's just bleeds through, at least to me. I'm not sure. It's like,
Well, yeah, I mean it's there, but it's also kind of it's kind of also the sure there's anti-war, but what we're getting towards a lot of things is like it's kind of just like, well, but war is inevitable and war is coming whether we like it or not,
yeah.
like and like one of the most misquoted things from Lord of the Rings is because of the movie, right? Because of how Gandalf says in the movie, but it's when Frodo says like, "I wish none of this had happened to me."
Mm.
And Gandalf said, so do all who live to see such times, but that's not for us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given.
It's given, yeah.
Right? And in the book, he says the time that is given us, right? But then, in the movie, he says something different. And so, like, people get, like, that shit tattooed on them, so I think it's so funny. But people also, like, because it's misquoted, they also misinterpret it, which, is fine. Like, it can be their interpretation, but based on all the context of the book, it really sounds like what Gandalf is saying, like, it's not like the time you have in your life, right? It's not like, oh, I have 60 years to live and all that matters is what I do with that time. What Gandalf is saying is like, you were born into this time now, and all you can do is decide what to do while you're here in this time, right? Like, in this time, the Dark Lord is rising again, and you have the ring, and you have to decide what you want to do, right? That's what he's saying. He's not saying, hey, hey, man, live your life, do your thing, whatnot. Like, you got time.
Also, another thing he opens up with too, which I think adds a little bit more wisdom onto it, just saying like there are others that have had to see such times through,
right?
And they made it through, so I think you can make it through too. Like almost kind of a reassurance, which is just Tolkien being Tolkien. It's great when you're a 30-year professor at Oxford studying English. You can do all this
and writing a dictionary.
Yeah, do all this fucking language jujitsu to make people like feel different things at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, how thankful we are to have Lord of the Rings now, though.
Yeah.
At least we can talk about it.
It's so good.
It is. There's a lot of good fantasy out there, but I just don't know why. But this is speaking as someone who's read a lot of fantasy novels. Nothing has ever come close to touching Lord of the Rings, like what it was, what it continues to be, and like just how it is.
And it's like other like fantasy, even like science fiction stuff. Like I've tried to read, no one like has the skill that Tolkien had with weaving a story with like actually saying something. Like I feel like Tolkien is like an ant, right? Tolkien is like Treebeard. It takes him a long time to get to his point sometimes.
Or Tom Bombadil, which is like, he just starts blurting out random beautiful songs out of nowhere, and talks about how awesome he is. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but like when I read other fantasy, like it feels clunky. Like it doesn't like I've tried to read Game of Thrones and I just feel like it doesn't flow. Like and there's nothing like that beautiful about the way it's written. Like I don't know what it is about Tolkien, but the way he writes to me is just really beautiful.
I just think it has to be his mastery of the English language at the end of the day. Like what I'm doing now with Lord of the Rings is I have a very old school something I I didn't steal it from my grandpa because he's dead now, so I guess he betrothed it to me. But his old collegiate, I forgot, I don't know how to pronounce the word. I'm a little tired. My throat's tired, but is in a very old dictionary from the 50s that he got when he went to college, and I use it to look up words. And even in the dictionary, I feel like I need another dictionary to understand the definition of some of the words. Like, I wish I could bring up examples now, but it's in my other room. I don't want to go get it because my feet are up and I'm chilling. Maybe next time though we can get back to doing some Tolkien essays.
Yeah.
But it's just when you're, like you said, like I keep saying, he was a professor of language at one of probably the most prestigious university in the world, Oxford University, like where you have to have oral, like that's something I don't think you and I, like aside from a job interview, we've never had to have an orally administered and orally received test where you have to speak the answers to someone. Like, could you, Jesus. Like, you have to think up the answer on the spot, and then
like in front of a class.
Yeah, and come up with a good response. Come up with a not just blurting out the answer, which is obviously they don't want. They want you to explain how you got to the answer in an eloquent and well thought out way. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a level of educated majesty that I think a lot of people don't get into this day, because a lot of the highest thinkers of our age are usually these days, it seems almost all of them are going into electrical engineering rather than, let's say, like the
Well, you can't make
study of
money with
language.
language anymore. Like, you just.
Yeah, well, you can now because there are a lot of good writers. There's a lot of good writers out there that are making quite a bit of money. Like
There's
this
some.
Brandon Sanderson is making quite a bit of money, and he's like relatively new. He's
Yeah.
been writing for 15 years. Sure, it's YA fiction, but it's still he's writing.
Right, but like you have to be writing and dedicated to writing for a long period of time to make money, and even then, you might not
Mm,
like nobody talks about how much money R.L. Stein makes because nobody knows.
yeah,
Like we know that J.K. Rowling is worth billions, but a lot of that's because of her movie deals, not so
movie.
much because of her books. I mean, she made a lot off of book sales. Let's not get
Yeah,
shit
I
twisted,
think
but
I think I saw. I can't remember, and this is probably an inaccurate quote, but I think she was actually one of the most like just from purely from book sales. I think she was one of the most like well rewarded authors of all time, and I think it was
I think
somewhere
she
around.
is.
It
Like,
was like $20 million just from book sales, and that's like considered a lot.
yeah.
So just to let people know like how authors, but also authors are, I don't know, they're different kinds of people. Like
Right.
me, like I would just
We
nurse
don't
that
we
money for the
don't
rest of my
see
life.
phenomenons like Harry Potter anymore. I mean, like that there were release parties for every one of those books. Like you would get
Yeah,
lines of
it
people
was
outside of Borders and Barnes and Nobles
it
waiting
was
to get
on
those
the
books.
it was on the news. I
Yeah,
remember every time there was a release, starting with Order of the Phoenix. Every order ever since Order of the Phoenix, I remember it was listed. People were on the news waiting to see.
yeah,
I remember the original Harry Potter website, way back in the day in 2007, 2008 was crashing all the time because everybody was always visiting it.
and get the craziest thing is even before like sure like the internet was a thing back in like 2005,
Mm,
2004, 2005. Like it was a thing, but like not there wasn't social media right like back then. But even without social media, like the day Half Blood Prince came out, I knew Dumbledore died
yeah,
because people told me, just
yeah.
people at school, you know, like it's like that shit's crazy. I remember I didn't read Harry Potter when that came out. I didn't read it until like right before, maybe well like later that year. I read all of them and then waited for the final book to come out and then went to the launch party of that, which was fucking
Mm,
sick.
yeah. Um, as for I went to the movie releases were big for me because I was in a family that was more oriented towards movies. But my sister
Hmm.
was very. I remember it was the Half Blood Prince when the book the Half Blood
Hmm.
Prince. She was waiting for the mailman. Like I think she was sitting outside by the post book, like starting from like 10:30 a.m. and I think she was out there till like 3 p.m. waiting for the delivery driver to come drop off the Half Blood Prince so she could grab it, go to her room, and
Yeah.
start reading it. Probably because of what you were talking about, she didn't want to be spoiled or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you're right. We haven't had any breakthrough major. There was Hunger Games, kind of, sort of, but it wasn't to the same level. I don't think.
Well, I think right after Harry Potter was like Twilight was the craze.
Yeah, Twilight. Like now that I understand more the intentions of the author, I judge it less harshly than I used to.
I still judge it
But
harshly because it's
well,
poorly written.
it's probably written, but also it was explained to me that she kind of wrote it with the intention of selling this book solely to 13-year-old girls. So for us as 26-year-old men to go and beat up on this.
Well, I mean, but when I tried to read it, I was a 13-year-old boy,
Yeah, well,
and it was still bad.
did you want to go on adventures with your vampire boyfriend?
I loved Buffy.
Yeah, well, that's a vampire girlfriend. We're talking about a
Yeah, but
vampire
I loved
boyfriend.
Angel and Spike as well.
Did you want them to be your boyfriends though?
No, but I dressed as Spike a lot.
Well, then it's about vampire boyfriend adventures. That's all that matters.
You know what's crazy? I was like, I don't even know. I was probably like 14 or 15, and like my friend and I, we would like walk around dressed like Spike from Buffy, like both of us for some reason. But he looked more like it than I did. But I just liked wearing trench coats because it was cool, you know.
Yeah.
And like we were like walking around with some of our other friends, like it was like late at night, and like we were walking home, and we got stopped by a police officer, and they're like, "Hey, have you guys been like ding dong ditching people or something?" And we're like, no, like we were just like at the park over there, like we're just walking home. He was like,
Mm.
well, we got a call about like people ding dong ditching, and we're like, well, like what? Like, well, it wasn't us. Like, Well, they said it was two guys in capes.
Are you guys wearing capes?
No, but I mean, they probably saw us like walking around like the neighborhood, you know. So they just assumed it was us, but it wasn't us. We didn't do it. But the cop was cool with us, which is good because like the people I hung out with back then, like all they did was smoke weed and talk shit about cops because they always get stopped and they're like, "Hey, cops hate me," and it's like, well, you know, you smoke a lot of weed, so
Yeah, driving around with a doobie in your car.
yeah. I mean, I never smoked weed, so it was like I didn't really care. Like I don't know, but like they did, so it was like every time they saw a cop, they like, you know, got nervous, so it was like odd, but
Yeah. So there was Hunger Games, Twilight. Twilight was a big fiction release. Hunger Games, I think, was the next one. I see. Remember when I was in high school, a lot of people were reading Hunger Games, so I don't want to say it was just the movies, but you know, the books and the movies tied in very closely. Game of Thrones flew under the radar for a long time until it was picked up by HBO.
yeah.
And then after that, people ate the first two books alive. They consumed them voraciously. They said they were great, and I read the first book, and I was like, this is okay. But to me, I'll be 100% honest. This will probably give me a lot of hate, but also I don't care. I kind of just read like the same kind of pulpy fantasy I've been reading forever, albeit a little bit longer and with a little bit more nuance to the storyline, but still more just kind of more of the same stuff. There's people doing fucked up shit. Some like, you know, they want to have some. There's a lot of unnecessary graphic sex scenes, violence. There's a horde of people that run around doing horde things. You know, yada yada yada. So I didn't really continue after that, and I guess a lot of people are mad at George R. R. Martin for not releasing the Winds of Winter.
Yeah,
which,
well, I mean, do you think if it would have been released before the series ended, that the series would have been better at the end?
No, because it just really depends. Like, at least then George R. R. Martin could have said that he tried to do something to save the show, or at least all the actors could have said like, "Hey, something's really wrong here." But I just think what happened in the last two seasons is that the showrunners, and they were also the writers. Am I correct? Right? They were the writers as well.
Well, I mean, they wrote some episodes. They kind of became like Joss Whedon, where like, you know, when Joss Whedon was working on Buffy, Angel, Firefly, etc., like he'd write, you know, like big episodes, and he'd be the showrunner, but writers' rooms took care of everything else. And I think that's kind of how they function. Like they'd write like one or two episodes a season, and they would dictate how it went. But yeah, I think they just fell under the weight of their own hubris and kind of like.
I don't think they fell under the weight of their own hubris. I think they were fucking done with it. They decided to throw the show to the.
You don't think it got to a point where they were just like their ego was through the roof, and they're just like, we can do no wrong, and we're gonna make this sick ass finale because like. Because what it feels like to me is like they did all this whole like we're gonna do this crazy build up, right, and like everything happens over time so slowly, and they're like that probably really annoys people, but it gets them to come back and watch more to see what happens next, and we're just gonna give them everything at once, and it's gonna be epic, and they're gonna love it.
I mean, maybe, possibly, probably. 1 second, I need to sneeze like super bad.
Yeah, no worries.
But what going to say before the sneeze hopefully comes out is that I think that also, aside from insane hubris, they were kind of fucking done running the show, and I think they were just trying to wrap it up as soon as possible.
Yeah. What did they get the Star Wars deal before or after the show ended?
I don't know.
Because they kind of taken
at the end of the day, you should finish the things you start, and if you don't, that shows a serious flaw in character. And I think that's maybe that's why they got the Star Wars thing taken away.
Yeah, I think it was before, like, because people were really excited, like that they were gonna be doing a Star Wars trilogy. Like the thing is, when Disney was making the sequel trilogy. Like every other week, this person's working on a Star Wars movie. Rian Johnson's getting a trilogy. D.B. Wise and David Benioff are getting a trilogy. Andy Serkis is gonna make a movie. Like, dude, everybody's making a Star Wars movie. Where are they?
Those shows, the alternate of the shows, bro. What do we have? Like 32 new shows coming out. Then they already axed 2 of them. The Gina Carano show and what else?
Well, there's Andor still, which. Like it'll probably be fine, but nobody asked for that, you know.
I don't know what Andor is. To be
Cassian Andor from Rogue One.
Oh, Okay, well, hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's like a prequel. Well, obviously it has to be prequel. I mean, he died.
He dies at
Spoiler.
the end
I
of
mean,
Rogue One. Yeah,
he kind of dies.
everyone fucking dies at the end of Rogue One.
Yeah, kind of dies.
Oh man, I love Rogue One. Maybe I'll go watch that later.
Yeah, it's really good.
Probably one of
Tomorrow
the
I
best
leave
Star Wars
for
movies.
Vegas.
Oh boy, your favorite place in the world.
I've never been
Nothing but
there. I don't predict I'll enjoy it very much.
yeah, because it's literally nothing but alcohol and drugs now. So
Yeah,
like,
but
and hookers.
I'll make the most of it, I guess. Like, I mean, my biggest issue is like everyone smokes in casinos, and cigarette smoke really bothers my throat, and
Oh
so
yeah,
I
you're
try to
gonna have a
avoid it
great
at all
time.
costs.
You're gonna have
Um,
a great time.
so what I'll do, I mean, I'll enjoy the food whenever we eat, and
Yep.
I'll probably just go to the swimming pool or something, like
Yeah,
chill.
there's a lot of hot
Maybe they have a
chicks there.
gym there.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna really bring gym clothes, so that might not work too much.
Yeah. Now, if you're trying to avoid cigarette smoke, definitely don't go to the interior of any casino because it's strong and really is. You can
Yeah.
smell it. You probably smell it as soon as you check in.
Yeah. I mean,
I
we
don't know.
went
You
to
can go
like,
to one of those gun ranges that they have where they have all the crazy guns to shoot, like an RPG and like a grenade launcher and a minigun and stuff like that. That's a bunch of fun you can have.
I mean, that brings me back to more depressing news. There was like people shot at a gun range recently. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
That's the best. Some
but
guy tried shooting up a subway in Philly.
yeah,
Apparently
no,
killed him.
was it Philly or New York?
I don't
I
know.
think this morning was New York.
Yeah.
10 people were shot, but
Yeah.
nobody died yet. I don't think.
Yeah. Apparently, like he had smoke grenades and like threw them
Yeah.
in two cars and shit
There's
like
like a
that.
there's a person of interest now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like anytime I scroll through the news, it's literally just people all
Dying.
over the country just being shot. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we leave tomorrow night at like 9 at night, and then our return flight is Saturday morning at like 6 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah,
Gotta
so
get those hours travel.
yeah.
Those
But
fly hours.
we went to Reno a couple years ago, and like a lot of the casinos in Reno now have like non-smoking sections.
Yeah.
So like, you can really avoid it, but I don't think Vegas is like that. I've never been, so I don't know, but my prediction is it's not like that.
What are you going for? Like a company convention or just going to
No,
go? Or...
my wife wants to get away, and she loves Vegas, and her cousin who we live with just turned 21 this year.
Oh shit, they're gonna get fucked up.
My wife isn't. She's just gonna gamble. She likes to gamble.
Yeah.
We had someone else coming who's like more of a party person to like hang out with her cousin to like, they can like go out to like clubs or parties or whatever, like like have that kind of fun, because like even like she's not really into casinos, but my wife, like, she just wants to go play slots and shit. Like, that's what she wants to do.
Same. I want to sit there, play slot machine, drink alcohol, and smoke a cigarette, and just have a good time.
My wife's not gonna drink or smoke, but she wants to gamble, so she wants to sit at slots and spend what little money we have.
There you go. Maybe she'll win. You never know.
Yeah. And then but we don't really know who our fourth is now. So hopefully someone comes. I mean, we have some feelers out there, but yeah, because it sucks to be 21 and go to Vegas and be alone, especially if you're a lady.
Yeah,
you don't want to be alone there.
So. No, not especially on Vegas, especially during like the weekend nights. All the dudes are on the prowl.
Well, I mean, we're gonna only be there Thursday pretty much and Friday, but yeah, Friday going into Saturday, and we'll probably be up all night to make sure we catch our flight. So
yep,
yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'll report back if it's shit or not. But it's funny because I was talking to my boss last week, because she's out all week this week. And she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send you to like this meeting or whatever on Thursday next week." And I was like, "Oh, I'm also off." She's like, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're off. Are you going somewhere?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to Vegas, but it's not really my thing, but it'll be fine or whatever." And she's like, "Oh yeah, me and my husband went a couple years ago or something." Or she's like, "We went recently and we couldn't wait to get out of there. It's awful."
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the thing about Vegas could be like if you're not like in the fancy fun casinos, you see a lot of very unhealthy people doing and engaging in unhealthy behavior constantly, and like that can be pretty depressing sometimes. especially at very specific bars. I went
Yeah.
to a strip club. It was probably one of the most expensive things I've ever done in my entire life.
Well, aren't most strip clubs in Vegas are just nightclubs, aren't they?
No, the one I went to was a legit strip club, at least.
It was just a strip club.
It was just a strip club, and they did some crazy shit. I was really impressed, dude. Like, they had this one chick, she was hanging upside down, like holding her legs, and there was another chick on top of her, and they both had their legs wrapped around the pole. And like
Oh.
the one on top would like bounce up and down, and like they would slowly be sliding down while spinning around and shit like that. And the other lady under her was like, you know, like hanging upside down, like doing weird shit with her arms and stuff like that. But it was cool. A lap dance was $40, but like, you know, just to feel some titty in my face.
So double what it is everywhere else.
Now, do you want to know the real crime? It was $16 for a single bottle of frickin' beer.
Oh.
Yeah, way too much money.
My only knowledge of Vegas comes from Jersey Shore Family Vacation.
Oh boy.
And yeah, because like a couple of like the people in Jersey Shore had residencies there. One of them had a residency at a nightclub that was a strip club. So I was like, oh, that seems like something very Vegas-y, where most of their nightclubs are also strip clubs. But yeah, and then I've only been to a strip club one time in my life when I was 18, and I left thinking, why didn't I just stay home and jack off?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, sometimes it's good. Like if you go to a strip club with like 7 other friends, you can have a good time.
I went with one friend and then a couple of his friends because it was his 18th birthday, and his dad took us all, and his dad paid for everything.
Oh, at least there's that. Did you get a free lap dance?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But
so, at least there's that.
Yeah,
but it's fun. You know, it's fun with your friends when you're also A, 21, and B, can smoke a little bit of marijuana.
Okay, well again, this doesn't really apply to me, because
I know, I understand. But I'm saying, like, if you want to have some trashy fun, like that's strip club can be a good time if you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
talking to girls too, like they're human beings, and yeah, it turns out that they're interesting people. And they have a lot of crazy fucking stories to tell if you get them to open up.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Oh, the other thing I know is if strippers come to a hotel, it's because they're gonna have sex.
Yeah. Most of them actually like they have to like I think like live within 30 minutes of like the strip club, so something like that. So
yeah, I don't know. I just know like bachelor parties, if they're like in hotel rooms with strippers, that someone's gonna have sex.
Yeah.
With a stripper.
Because probably.
So
just call them a prostitute at that point.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah, it's like the best reason to go to Reno too.
Reno is a shithole, dude.
Reno's got a bunch of really nice warehouses though. So
what are you gonna do in a fucking warehouse?
A whorehouse.
Oh, okay.
Two completely different things, and I can do a lot of things in a warehouse. Thank you very much. Specifically, if there are whores there.
Like what? Fix their prosthetic legs?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you never know. Some of them don't have prosthetic legs. Some of them have full legs, and they cosplay like anime characters now, and it's like really expensive to see them. And they got all these medical certificates and stuff you gotta sign and get medically checked before you can get to see them.
You don't have to do any of that paperwork if you just go to a comic book convention. You can find the same girls.
Yeah, except I need to be able to actually sleep with these girls. My shitty personality usually gets in the way. In this way, I can just get past that money.
Just pretend you're balling.
No, I'm good. I can just see this thing. I can just be balling with a stripper.
But then you have to go to Reno.
Yeah, but Reno's fun because that's warehouses. There you go. See, it's a fucking endless vicious cycle.
I'm sure there are some local whores who can take care of you.
Not out here, no. Like, we'll take, because it's all illegal, so the state doesn't do like any medical or wealth or health checkups or anything like that. When Reno,
you gotta do it yourself. You gotta bring the paperwork. Gotta bring the tests. All your,
I don't want to do all that. Do all that in Reno. What's the difference?
Well, I mean, like, what if, like, just even if it's not strippers, if you or hookers, if you just meet a girl and you wanna like do a one-night stand or something, man, you gotta check the paperwork first.
No, that's too much work. You gotta go to a bar and pretend like I have a personality first, and I don't want to do that. So,
I mean, hey man, I'm pretty sure going to bars is a personality.
Yeah, well, it is for some people. It ain't for me though.
It's like that's what I tell people who drink IPAs. I'm like, IPAs don't have like nobody drinks IPAs because they like the flavor. They just drink it because it's their only personality trait. But
yeah.
But people don't like when you say that.
Some people really like IPAs.
I told someone that, and because he was drinking an IPA, and he said, you know what? I would agree with you. like a couple years ago, but I've been drinking IPA so long I actually enjoy it now.
Yeah,
So
just
yeah,
how it works.
fair enough. I can't really talk on it because I don't drink. I just like to judge people and talk shit. So like my opinion really doesn't matter. It's just funny to me.
The worst kind of drug. Talking shit.
Yeah, my wife always says I appreciate that you can laugh at your own jokes because no one else will.
Well, yeah, she's not wrong. Oof, double bird.
I think I'm hilarious, but other people just kind of give me funny looks when I tell jokes. So whatever.
Sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everyone keeps telling me I'm pretty as fuck, but then I look in the mirror and I get scared. So we just I don't know.
Well, that's because you have an idea of yourself already. So when you look at yourself, you see what you already believe you are. But the rest of us, we see beauty and kindness and all sorts of good things.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I mean, psh.
Anyway, moving on from that boring topic of conversation. What else?
I mean,
Talk about my own book.
Oh yeah, what's going on with your book?
I don't know, like just talking about Tolkien's inspiration, but like it's been a long time since I read Tolkien, so I don't want to say exactly like my novels 100% inspired from Lord of the Rings, like some other people will directly say what they're inspired from. But I will say, like, even just the fact, like, having the big bad, having an evil guy, having like the Dark Lord, like, I'm not sure, is that something that started with Tolkien, or is that just something you think is just inherent to storytelling? It's like having a character that overshadows everything with like an evil presence. Or do you think just Tolkien did it so well that everybody thinks that's that's the standard basically now?
I haven't read much pre-Tolkien fantasy, so I can't speak to that. But I think it is, not to quote Disney, but it's a tale as old as time. Like good versus evil, and like an evil. Well, I mean, like you look at some Disney stuff that was done in the 30s, right? Like you had Maleficent and like overarching like dark characters, right? But in Disney is always like old sorceresses and witches and shit.
Or drag queens, like in
Shakespeare.
the first one. Yep.
What about Shakespeare? Well, Shakespeare was in fantasy.
In Shakespeare, the thing is, like, every character
every character is a gray character in a way.
Had a very specific, and they had a very specific purpose to suit the story. And I just don't think there is a one character that was like, oh, I am the lord of everything that's going wrong in your world.
Maybe Macbeth.
No, because Macbeth was kind of his own Dark Lord in himself, because the main focus of Macbeth was also on Macbeth. We get more of the story from him than from anybody else.
That's true. Same with Beowulf. It's there's not like an overarching like main bad guy. It's like more about like character hubris.
Beowulf, some weird shit.
Yeah.
Gotta say, Old English is definitely old.
Yeah. You liked Ghost of Tsushima, right?
I didn't play it, but I do want to play it, but I'm also just biding my time until I can get a PS5, so I'm not really playing any PlayStation games
apparently
right now.
Sony's making a movie of it.
I hope it does well.
Takashi Dosher is writing it.
Good for him. I hope it's good, and I hope it doesn't suck, and I hope it's not like every other video game. Like, the only good video game movie I think I've ever seen was probably the World of Warcraft one.
Yeah.
I know the Assassin's Creed one was horrible. Crash Bandicoot one was horrible. Ratchet and Clank one was just literally just a bunch of cutscenes from the video game itself.
Wait, there's a Crash Bandicoot movie?
Oh yeah, dude, it was super bad. It was so hilariously bad.
The new Mortal Kombat movie is also bad.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
But if you like to just watch something and not think at all, then you'll enjoy it.
But here's the thing with that Mortal Kombat movie, though, the new one, is I think they're moving in the right direction of what Mortal Kombat movies should be, which is just these ridiculous like fight scenes, like with over the top like just animated fantasy kung fu, like just crazy shit. And
Did you see the new Uncharted?
No, but I also heard that was really, really bad.
I mean, in other Sony news, Sony's Morbius drops over 73% in its second weekend at the box office.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to that watched it said it was just very uninspired and boring. So
yeah, I had no interest in it.
Same. I don't even know what Morbius is, so I don't fucking care. So there we go.
Well,
They didn't make me care. That's the thing. Like they didn't make me care like they made my family care to go see Iron Man back in 2006 or whatever the fuck that was.
2008.
2008. So there we go.
Charlize Theron is producing an Aqualad-inspired series for HBO Max.
Good.
What does it mean to be Aqualad-inspired?
It's just, Aqualad from SpongeBob. There we go. Inspired,
no, not Sponge. This is
SpongeBob,
DC Comics
Aquaman,
Aqualad.
Aquaman and Aquaboy and Aqualad, bro. That was.
According to Variety, the streaming service will explore Aqualad's origins in a new series that is executive produced by Charlize Theron. The show is called You Brought Me the Ocean and will draw influence from the 2019 graphic novel of the same name. Yeah, that's where he explores his homosexuality.
Well, I hope it doesn't suck, and I hope it's good. And yeah, that's all I can really do at this point.
Yeah. You know, there's always way more comments on anything that has to do with like minorities of any kind,
because people get picked on a fight. And
people are the worst.
Yeah.
I bet none of them have ever read read the graphic novel. This is some CW level crap. Oh, this is my favorite one. Wow, comments did not disappoint.
They never do. Especially when you got the right hazmat suit on and everything for when you're going through them.
Watch out, black men. The media is insisting on turning every black character as gay now. Go figure. All right. Okay. Wokeism, politically correct, SJW, snowflakes, progressivism, lefties, and so many other descriptives. This is why none of these things will succeed. They're degenerate and insidious. They're constantly going for children. They offer nothing fruitful, positive, or constructive. They offer division, hostility. Okay.
He's really angry.
They're constantly going for children on a streaming service where this will exclusively be that costs $15 a month. What child is paying for that shit?
Yeah, and also parents, it probably will, if it's rated correctly, it probably will be most likely PG-16. And if parents, which really they need to start stepping it up and usually using that built-in parental controls and all these streaming services to make it so their child can't watch that kind of stuff. Like what Disney has. Disney's parental control system is awesome. I love it. I wish more people would use it, but they don't.
Jesus, all these people.
Yeah, no, man. Fights on the internet. Like, it just seems like the internet's getting more and more violent every single day, dude. Like,
well, and the fact is, so many people are just so uninformed about everything too. Like, you see it on the internet more than anywhere else. I mean, because everyone's on the internet. It's like people who think they know literally everything, but literally know nothing. And for me, the biggest issue is like there are a lot of complex things in our lives and in our world, yet everyone thinks it's so simple.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where I come down on all of this stuff, right? You look at things like, on the political spectrum, like on the far left you have CNN, and on the far right you have Fox News. And if you want to find the truth, it's somewhere in the middle of both of those things. Both those sides are lying to you in one way or another. The only time you know they're telling the truth is if they both report on the same exact thing. Right? So if you watch CNN, MSNBC, and then you watch Fox News, and any part of their reporting overlaps where they're both saying the same thing, that part is true. Sorry, I just peaked my mic. But most of the other shit, like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Because it's really easy to take full issues and give your side and not ever mention the other side and paint it without context as what you think it is, and then for the other side to do the same exact thing. The truth is, it's somewhere in the middle. always. And so when people say, "Oh my God, Aqualad's black and gay. Oh my God, they're ruining America. They're grooming children," and then the other side says, "No, they're not. They're just educating and showing blah 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 blah." There's true elements to both of those things, and there's false elements to both of those things. Like the truth is in the middle somewhere, right? Like there are kids who will watch that and be like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like finally someone that I relate to, someone who represents me, and other people watch it and say, I'm uncomfortable with this or whatever. They have to confront their own prejudices, whatever it is. Like the thing is, like, will it do more harm or good? Who cares? If you don't like it, don't fucking watch it.
Yeah.
So,
especially with HBO, there's so many different shows on HBO you can go through and watch for a little power fantasy.
Exactly. Not like any of those ever have things that you might disagree with. Jesus fuck, man.
Never.
Yeah. Then there's this news article about Warner Brothers reevaluating Ezra Miller's future as the Flash.
I wonder why.
Which then they later came out and said, "We didn't say that. We're not doing that." But yeah, when I saw that article for the first time, I laughed because it's just like we were talking about how dysfunctional all this shit is. It's so funny to me. Yeah, there's not really other news. America Chavez, co-creator, says he turned down Marvel's insult of an offer. So, for people who don't know, the way comic books work is if you work for Marvel, everything that you do under Marvel's name is owned by Marvel. That's just how it works. So, when they use your characters that you created and put them in movies, they technically don't have to give you anything. And what they end up doing is barely giving you anything. And pretty much what this guy said, I read the article like last week or whatever. He pretty much said like, I don't need that money, so I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me at all. I don't need the money. It doesn't bother me, and I'd rather not take it and be able to speak out like I'm speaking out now for future creators to understand that this is how this industry works. And if that bothers you, you can do something about it or try to do something about it, but I'd rather not take the little tiny bit of money they want to give me for the character I created to put them in Doctor Strange, and instead be able to speak about what's happening, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
it's not the first time. Like other creators have been like really insulted. Like they're like, "Yo, what the fuck? Like I created this major character for you, and you're not giving me anything." And legally, yeah, they don't have to because you're technically a freelance worker, like, working for Marvel. So everything you do, it's just like if I create some crazy technology at my company, they own that technology, Yeah. Because I use their resources and their money to be able to do it. But, I'm sure there's arguments. I'm sure even you might have some feelings about corporations and...
Yeah, there are instances when the whole independent contractor thing works very well, and there are instances wherein it simply does not, and there are instances where the company, if they really do care about independent talent, they really should run some kind of hybrid model, but that's really complicated, and they don't want to do that, and they don't want to go through the legal jujitsu of setting that up, so instead they just do one or the other. And in this case, I really, if everything they do is owned by Marvel, but they're still called independent contractors, even though they're constantly writing things for Marvel, they're doing things for Marvel, they're most likely sitting in a Marvel drawing studio. They have Marvel apparel on, it's just...
Well, it's like, the ones that come back the most, the ones that are regulars, the one who gets the big stories, all that stuff. Like these are the writers that have like, when it comes time to renegotiate their deals, that they're renegotiating, get more cuts from popularizing characters, right? Like when you're just starting off, like you feel like, holy shit, my dreams are coming true. I'm working on comic books. Like you take whatever you get and you just sign it, right? Which is why it's like so good for people to speak out and say like, hey man, like don't just take it. Like if you believe in your stuff and you know your worth, fight for what you believe in. And if you think you're going to create an amazing character one day that Marvel's going to put in a movie, put that in your contract that like you should get a certain percent of that, right? Yeah. Just like if I got a record deal or whatever, I don't want the record company to own all my music. Like I put all my time and effort into writing that music, and sure I get to use your equipment and your people to make it sound better and whatever, but I want to own it. So if I'm signing a record deal with anybody, I'm making sure like I own the music. And if I don't, then why not just do it myself and hire my own people? You know.
That's what one of her. I a lot refer to my good friend Mookie. She got Masterclass. You know what Masterclass is? It's like kind of like an online web learning platform. We're not sponsored by them.
Just like Curiosity and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they have like just lecture series from like famous people basically, and they have like some famous people that are useless and I don't understand why they have their masterclass. Like they have one by the Clintons, like literally by Hillary Clinton and by Bill Clinton, and literally the most like heavy process.
It's like TED Talks kind of.
Yeah, but like
where every now and then they sell out, and you're like, why?
Several of them in a no, it's like TED Talks, but several of them in a row, and yeah. But Werner Herzog did a really good. His masterclass was fantastic. It's also funny. You mentioned at the beginning of the show R.L. Stein. He also did a masterclass on writing, and I actually found him quite informative about how the business of writing works. And also, I just love the guy. I appreciate him a lot more, after taking that masterclass. He's a kooky character.
I mean, it's tough though. It's tough.
Yeah,
because like
going back real quick on the point of Werner Herzog, like he said that at the end of the day, like he wanted to retain all his film rights, all that stuff, like that you were just talking about, and he said, if you have a project that you really believe in, like I was just a kid from Germany, no name, no family name or anything like that, fresh, or at least I think that's what he said. Fresh out of film school, that he basically didn't get along with any of his professors at film school because they're all teaching in like this really old school way that he didn't appreciate because he was the young person trying to push the letter forward. And he said, if you just believe in your project and you have a project that's just what he said, I think touched by the grace of God, like it'll rise to the top, and you just really got to believe in yourself. That's what he said, and I think that's important to reiterate.
Yeah. Well, even like you look at George Lucas, like the reason why he got away was like the reason he made so much money off Star Wars is because he
owned everything.
He maintained so many rights to Star Wars that
he built his own studio in his backyard.
Yeah, and like Fox had very little faith in it, right?
Yeah. Well, so it's funny too because like I didn't realize, the more I understand, like it's funny because we make George Lucas, it seems like, oh, he was nobody until Star Wars came out, but I didn't realize that he made American Graffiti.
Yeah, he made American Graffiti.
American Graffiti was an immensely popular movie when it came out, and that's also when I realized that's where he knew Harrison Ford from. It's weird because
he did it as a film school project.
Yeah, that's just how. Sometimes some people are just really good at something, and I think George Lucas is really good at making movies.
George Lucas was a stud back then too. Like his early pictures, like dude, that dude was very good looking back in the 70s.
Back in the days, he had the eyes and everything like that. And now he's just a dorky dude walking around with his tucked in jean shirts and his jorts.
Hey man, he's bussing.
Yeah, but now I guess he gets to rest on his laurels, I guess. But back on R.L. Stein too, like, just to go deeper into that, like, man, that guy it's funny because like in the first 10 minutes of class, like, I'm just gonna answer a bunch of questions right off the bat. Where Mr. R.L. Stein? Where do you get your ideas? I got no idea. I just think them up as I'm writing. Sometimes I see something that really inspires me to make a kid horror story. So I go home and I just write 90 pages. Boom, new book.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, though. Like, inspiration sometimes comes from nowhere. Like, I'll just be driving home sometimes, and I'll just think of, like, 2 song lyrics that go well together. I'm like, holy shit, I need to write that down.
Yeah, or, like, scenes in my book when I'm, like, thinking, like, oh, awesome set pieces of badass stuff to write, or, like, interesting lines of dialogue, stuff like that.
Well, sometimes you have to be careful. Like, sometimes I'll start writing something, and, like, I'll just, like, it'll just take me away, and then I'll just, like, oh, I wanted to write this positive thing, and now I wrote something about suicide. Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bring grunge back, bro.
This happens.
Bring grunge back.
But it's really hard. Like any type of writing you do, it's really hard to get published. Like it's an insane process to get published.
The Amazon self-publishing makes it very easy to get published these days, but it also just depends on how many people are going to read that. Like, dude, it's funny. Do you ever want to be endlessly entertained? All right. Do you know what you need to do? Go to the Amazon book section, sort by romance, and then sort by the brand new, like, fresh off the press, self-published indie novels in the romance section.
Is it just a bunch of Reddit forums?
You will see some of the funniest fucking, like, sexual 75-page fan fiction shit I've ever seen.
But do you make money off of that?
You can, yeah, you can make a lot of money. I know some people. I've heard of people that are making well over $1 million, like after taxes,
But
a year.
you have to like
This, here's the thing, also, if I could
self
just
promote
finish.
everything, which is really tough.
Yeah, but also here's the thing. Fantasy fans and science fiction fans are kind of like starved dogs right now. You know, they really haven't been getting anything like hardcore major, so they're willing to basically. And I'm talking about like the hardcore fantasy. Like I'm a science fiction and fantasy fan, but I'm not like a hardcore one. I'm never like a hardcore anything, but except for like maybe dinosaur. It doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that these people will, if they will do that, like they go to the fantasy. There's another section in the Amazon bookstore, fantasy and science fiction. You can sort by brand new, self-published, right then and there. Some of these people will go. They'll read the first 2 pages. They'll decide if they want to read any more or not. And if they do, they'll give you like the $3.99 or the $4.99. That's the thing about these books. It's about moving volume. So like they'll be on their little Kindle or their e-reader or whatever it is, and they'll just like, do you want to buy this book? Yes. Boom. Click. One click. $4.99. There it goes. You just got to get all. You got to give. You got to give a shitload. You got to just get a shitload of people to read it. You know.
If I was gonna write, I'd write a poetry book.
Yeah. Well.
Can you self-publish those?
Yeah, you can self-publish anything on Amazon. Case in point, there's like some of the shittiest, like just like erotic fiction I've ever seen in my entire life, just flooding Amazon. The romance amateur.
Oh, I'll show you erotic fiction.
Yeah, there you go, bro. It's your calling. You can write amateur erotic fiction and make gajillions of dollars.
He was driving down the Rocky Mountains, looking at the rock formations, thinking, "I've got a rock formation in my pants."
Pants, yeah, dude. He started.
That's
a lot. Yeah, that's it. There you go. $3.99, baby. There you go.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go get some Panda Express and play some Lego Star Wars.
Nice. I heard there's a lot of memes in that game.
Oh, it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. It's like really entertaining, but also everyone's saying there's a lot of memes, which I'm happy that like they included a lot of memes.
Yeah, hold on. I took a picture in the game. I don't know if I can show it. I'll try. Hold on.
Well, you just share it to my Discord, and I can check it out at least.
Display capture. Okay. Bam. Okay, it's on the screen.
Oh, Baby Yoda, Luke Skywalker,
yeah,
Mandalorian,
Han Solo, Leia, yeah. So because I bought the deluxe edition, and it came with the Mandalorian, and so like I just like randomly switched to him, and I just noticed Baby Yoda's following me around. So I was like, man, I'm gonna fucking print screen this shit.
There you go, bro.
Yeah, that was sick.
Just for future reference, though, if you're playing a game via Steam. If you press the F12 key, it'll actually take a screenshot of the game you're playing right now and then download that screenshot to a screenshot folder and then format it.
I'm a dumb.
Okay, just F12. That's all you get. It's just one button press, okay? It's like, those little shapes that you had to put in?
I use F12 as save as. Does that count?
No, but you can certainly use it if you can figure out how to bind it to save as and you understand the concept of save as. I'm sure you can understand the concept.
I mean, with Excel. Like it is save as in Excel. If
you could use Excel with a moderate level of success, I think you can take a screenshot with Steam's built-in screenshot function by pressing one key. Okay.
I'm a god at VLOOKUP now, by the way, too.
Good.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Ain't no thing. Okay. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, fat pal. And
always glad.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody watching and stuff too.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna get that high rise. Go get that panda.
Yeah.
Hey, so let me know if there's orange chicken there when you get there, okay?
My wife's gonna get orange chicken, so they better have it.
I was really upset yesterday. I was trying to order it via my app, and for some reason, the orange chicken wasn't on the app, so I don't know what's going on.
I'm going to order two before I go because the Panda by us is always packed out the fucking wazoo. Motherfuckers have lines down the street.
Oh, it's so good, dude. That's why.
Panda Express is mediocre, but it sounded good to me.
I don't know about mediocre, but it's pretty delicious. Anyway, you go enjoy that.
Thanks.
Take me off the internet.
Yeah, bye, internet.